Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Review Hexx, Stranger Things edition, the final review, the full review. I'm JohnHexx. Stranger Things returned for a second volume of episodes on, was it Christmas Day? 3 episodes and the finale being New Year's Eve. I watched episode 5 through 7 the day after Christmas, I think. And I watched the finale last night as a recording of this video, which I don't know when this video is going to be out, but that would be on January the 1st. The night of January the 1st is when I watched the finale. So I think a good place to start here would be recapping kind of what I said in the Stranger Things review so far review I did before. And I think I left those first 4 episodes again saying that these are characters that over time that I've grown to like or love. I wanted to see how it ended. Story-wise, I thought it's gotten a little bit convoluted. And I'm thinking things have just gotten too big. I think we've gotten too many characters. I think story-wise, things have just gotten so big. And I think I also said in that review that I think they went 1 season too long. I think the way last season ended, obviously they would have had to write an actual ending instead of a cliffhanger or leaving it open. It would have been a satisfactory ending to the show. So I think I started the season excited. I think each subsequent episode, probably at 2 and 3, I'm kind of like, this isn't the greatest thing. It's not bad. At the same time, it's not like I'm on the edge of my seat excited about what's about to happen next. Then we got to that mid-season finale, episode 4, the big Will moment, the moment that we knew that this has become kind of like a Marvel movie. Will's got powers and he just neutralized the threat. That left a little bit of intrigue, but still, story-wise, it was just like, I don't know what they're going to do. This has gotten a little bit on the crazy side. I think I said also that they could still, like, second half of the season, do it in a way that is going to, like, excite me again. Did they accomplish that? Initial thoughts on the second volume of episodes. And again, I am reviewing the rest of the episodes from 5 to 8, the finale. To be perfectly honest with you, those 3 episodes on Christmas left kind of a lot to be desired. And I was like, oh my God, this is heading in a direction. This doesn't look good heading into the finale. That was kind of my thought process. And we got to the finale, and to be perfectly honest with you, was it perfect? No. Was it the greatest thing I've ever seen? No. But was it satisfactory enough? I kind of think it was. And we'll get into specifics here in just a second. But yeah, I kind of think the ending was, judging on how I felt after episode 7 and the way things ended in episode 8, I think they did kind of save it. Not to the highest degree, but somewhat save it. Now let's get into the specifics. We're going to do this episode by episode. Again, I'm not going to recap the plot like I was doing before. Hit some plot points and almost discussion based. even though this is more of a monologue because I'm just here. So, episode 5 picked up right where episode 4 left off, after Will did his thing. And to be honest, like I said, after that big moment, I feel like I was thinking things were going to shift in the gear right here at this episode, and things are going to get going. This is the moment where they like really start to kill it. It's like we picked up there and where the episode started, and it didn't give me that big excitement again. It's almost like we restarted again. Like this was another episode 1. You get it. Episode 1 of this season, you have to restart. You have to get everybody back in the world again. It's been 2 years since, I think, season 4. So starting slow, like giving everybody educated again and getting them back into the season. And where we left off makes sense. Doing it in episode 5 at the mid-season finale, and it kind of felt like we were starting all over again. We got that big moment at the end of 4. We came back and we got back to an episode 1 situation here where we slowed back down. You know the thing that triggers me the most about these episodes? Well, it's not these episodes, it's horror movies in general. This isn't a horror movie, it's a TV show. But you know, when they're running away from the killer and they're tripping over everything and stumbling, or something is coming at them and they'll sit there and stare at it as it's coming and then run later. Or, I don't know, something's about to fall on them, and instead of moving immediately, they'll just look up and not move. I mean, we got that with Max the first time, right? Right? She was telling her story of how she was going back through memories, and like the portal was there, and she just sat there and stared at it. And I think the music stopped and the portal closed, and Vecna got her. I think there was a moment in this where Will, and again, episode 5 is a little bit more distant in my mind right now, so it's kind of difficult for me to remember. But Will and Vecna goes at it again. They come up with the ideal, I think. Will go in there, use his powers, snap Vecna's neck, get it done right now. And I think there's a situation where Max and Holly are trying to escape, and Vecna has them. He's about to get him. Will stops him. Like he uses his power, snaps the leg of Vecna. But while this is going on, instead of moving, they stand there and look at Vecna. Why? Why do they do that? Until Will tells them to run. So yeah, things like that in any TV show, movie, just kind of triggers me. Couple more points to hit in episode 5. Henry did get all the kids that he was after in the first half of the season. Dustin still has his rage going after why him and Steve have not been getting along. I call it, I see in my notes here, I got it as Eddie rage. He rages out on Steve, they fight. And that episode ended with Nancy getting to was it like a singularity point or something? I don't quite remember. But the cliffhanger is Dustin finds like some information that's like, okay, this isn't like the Death Star, because he was comparing it to the Death Star weak spot thing. If they attack this thing, it's going to kill everybody. And Nancy shoots it, and that's where the episode ended. And that was episode 5. And as I said, episode 5 started out slow, and then it kind of picked up there at the end, I think. with the Will versus Henry scene and the cliffhanger about everyone's gonna die and Nancy shoots the thing. So that left some intrigue. However, I gave episode 5 a 6.9, which is solid on the Hexx scale. Episode 6, Nancy and Jonathan's cliffhanger, where Nancy shoots the wormhole, and we're kind of left to think that they're gonna die. Do they die? No. So we also find out that the upside down is a wormhole to another world in episode 6. So the moments here in episode 6 that kind of got to me is obviously there's a big scene with the Demogorgons. That's actually two moments in this episode. I guess I'll start with the most boring part, which is Nancy and Jonathan. And to be honest, before we got new episodes, I kind of went back and looked at the moment when Nancy got drunk back in season 2, I think episode 2. And like Jonathan, I think, drives her home and you have that song playing. I might add it to the video just for a brief moment so you can hear it. It was one of the early songs that I used to love in the score. It's by Big Giant Circles. I think it's called Another Realm. Bum, 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 bum. But anyway, I used to love that theme. And Nancy was like, she came across, and again, it's been many years. Show's been on a long time. Nancy came across as like the popular girl in school. Probably the pretty girl that all the guys want to get with. Obviously, Steve the Harrington was her man, and he's like the popular guy in school. So, and Jonathan was like maybe the weirdo kid, the nerd, and obviously I like to root for the underdog. I want the nerd sometimes to get the girl. So I just remember I used to root for Jonathan. I used to love Jonathan. I used to like be on his side. And now I could care less. Like the whole Nancy Jonathan relationship and him and Steve kind of competing for her just feels so stupid. And I don't care about it. They made Jonathan unlikable. And he was kind of likable as the underdog before. But yeah, they have a heart-to-heart with a room that's filling up with like some substance that's probably going to engulf them and drown them and kill them. And they have a heart-to-heart. They get all their stuff out there on the table, their grievances with one another. They get it out there. Right at the moment that they're about to get engulfed, like they're sitting on a table, and imagine a room being filled up, I don't know, with a thick, like milk-like substance, maybe like a plaster. A room being filled up and you're stuck in there with no way out. And at some point it's going to overtake your head, and obviously you're not going to be able to breathe in that. But yeah, as the room is filling up and it's getting to the point of their legs and it's about to reach their bodies, all of a sudden it hardens out of nowhere and you have no idea why it happened. Very convenient. Save there without knowing how they got saved. Okay, that takes me to the second thing. Lucas, Robin, as Vecna sends his little demi-dogs after Max in the real world. Okay, they come through the rift, right? They kill the soldiers because the soldiers have, I think, Lucas and Robin and them, and they come out of the rift and they just kill the soldiers, right? And Lucas and Robin and Robin's girlfriend are kind of running off. All of a sudden, the demi-dogs don't care about them. They kill the soldiers out of nowhere and just run by them all of a sudden on their mission to go after Max. And obviously I'm saying Lucas. Lucas wasn't there. Lucas was with Max. But it was Robin and her girlfriend that were and Robin was getting captured by the soldiers. But how convenient that they killed the, sorry, my phone was vibrating there, that's why I looked down there. But they're, how convenient that they capture Robin, they come out of the rift, immediately go after the soldiers and don't kill Robin. They immediately go after Max. Lucas has Max. He gets on the elevator. Another thing that triggers me, why would you get on an elevator in this situation? Why? No one, you can get on, I would use the stairs. Like, there are movies where things barely have power and they get on the elevator and get stuck or something. It's like, why don't you run? I don't know. Why do you run through the elevator? It doesn't seem like the best option to me, but I digress. Anyway, Lucas has Max. He goes down the elevator. The demi-dogs are after them. They get to a laundry room, and all of a sudden, the demi-dogs kind of are running around everywhere, crazy when they came out of portal, killed the soldiers and everything. All of a sudden, they get in the laundry room, and all of a sudden, they start going slow and meticulous around searching for for Max while there's music playing. So they can't hear music apparently, and they're just going around slowly. And obviously, just as so conveniently, the demi-dogs are stupid, completely stupid, and have no senses. And when clearly there's music playing, and all of a sudden they're not as aggressive as they were, they're just slowly going around the room searching. Very convenient. Eventually, there's a noise in a dryer or something, and there's a tank in there in which Miss Harrington, not Miss Harrington, but Miss Wheeler, once again, has a badass moment. However, she did it. Another thing that doesn't make sense is that she just appeared out of nowhere. Yes, we saw the scene before where she was looking at these like pressurized tanks. However, how did she get down there? How did she get it in the dryer? When did that happen? Did somehow she get down there before everyone ran down there? And how would she know they were going to hide there? Or did she sneak in there while the dogs were searching? Again, how convenient that happens. And there's no explanation and no way to me that moment made sense. But anyway, all the demi-dogs are mesmerized by this noise by the dryer, and they get exploded by this tank, pressurized tank. I think, if I remember correctly, she may have shot it or something, and it blew them up and killed them. So many triggering things in this episode. Finally, the last triggering thing in episode 6 was, once again, Max and Holly in this situation. They make it to a portal. Again, she's had a portal close on her before. And once again, she gets there and stops and has a whole conversation instead of getting to the portal and getting out of there. Why? And again, but anyway, they had this whole conversation, and the conversation leads to Holly having a portal open for her. As Max says that she couldn't go with her because this her way out, that's not hers. But that conversation somehow opened up a doorway for Holly. And the episode ends with Max finally running. And I have in all caps in my notes, run through the effing portal, Max. That was during the conversation when they were just sitting there staring again. How did she, I'm not going to get into it because I can sit here and rant forever. But yeah, it happens. And in this case, the portal, I guess, remained open. So summary of episode 6, so many convenient moments. Jonathan, Nancy, the room stops feeling before it kills them. The demi-dogs kill the soldiers but run past the main characters or side characters that are part of our group. And then they're hiding in the laundry room with music playing and the demis can't find them. and how the mother knew that the Demis were going to go into the laundry room and that the group were going to go to the laundry room and to set up the trap that would eventually kill the demi dogs. And Max having full convos in no urgency to leave when the portals are open. A lot of triggering things. I gave this episode a 6.5 and an okay. Episode 7, there's not a lot to say about episode 7. This was mostly set up for the finale. They were trying to set the stage. It was kind of the calm before the war. Make peace with your gods type stuff, preparing for the final battle. And also, Nancy is out here killing soldiers like a super soldier now. She's on Hopper's level now of skill when it comes to artillery. I think episode 7 was a big nothing episode. Pretty much. It was basically trying to set the stage for the finale. And it didn't give us much. So I'll just go ahead and say I gave that episode a 6.3 and an okay. Which set the stage for the finale. Now, after those 3 episodes after Christmas for me, when I watched it, knew that the final episode was 2 hours, so they had a chance to make some things right, but God, I had low expectations. Like, I couldn't believe that episode 7 was just nothing. They really gave us nothing in episode 7. And there's all around the internet, it's like, episode 7 got the lowest ratings out of any episode or something like that I was seeing around. And I'm like, nah, you think? They didn't do anything in the episode. So now we get to the finale. 2 hours. Everything comes down to this, the final episode ever of Stranger Things. And immediately I'm like, Linda Hamilton is back. Sarah Connor is back in the show. I'd forgotten all about her in those other 3 episodes. And basically, to me, she plays the role of the nuisance. We got all these big things happening with Henry and the other world coming through the wormhole and all of these things. And Linda Hamilton is here trying to make super soldiers, apparently to go against Russians. Doesn't care that the world could be ending. Just only, it doesn't make sense. If the world's ending, what good is it going to do to have super soldiers? So, yeah. There was a moment where the world is coming through and Steve fell off the tower that they were on. And I was like, obviously nobody dies in this show. You figure that they were going to have a big death during these episodes. At this point, they had nothing. And when Steve fell, I felt no urgency or like, oh my God, Steve's going to die feeling. Because to be honest, I thought Jonathan was going to save him. And once that hand went out there, I knew who it was. It was Jonathan. Which set up a Jonathan-Steve bonding moment. They have their heart to heart. And it's funny where we've come from, right? When this show first started, things were a little bit simpler, right? It was supernatural horror type stuff that we were figuring out. And now we're here in the last episode. And these kids who are now adults are standing on another planet, another world. If you would have told me that in season 1 of this show or 2, I probably wouldn't have thought that was going to happen. There's a moment in episode 8 where Hopper had a Star-Lord moment. Remember when Star-Lord went crazy on Thanos in the Avengers? That may have cost the Avengers winning and giving Thanos the upper hand. Well, Hopper with Vecna playing with his head and showing him some real things, but at the same time, there was a motive behind it. Hopper ends up breaking the tank that 11 was in, causing her to leave the Henry's little dimension, that little world, that little Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood type place and leave the kids, and everybody was kind of brought back. That was me saying everybody, 11, 8, and Max were brought back to the real world. So I was like, Hopper just had his Star-Lord type moment. This is Stranger Things. This is Netflix. We've seen deaths in this show before. Everybody assumed that there was going to be some big death. And I honestly, to add stakes and I don't know, something to it to make it think that people can die in this show, I thought they needed it. And then I put they killed Collie. I thought they needed a death because everyone keeps getting last minute saves. Conveniently, they kill 8. However, she probably would have been the easiest character to kill off, right? So to me, that wasn't like the big death that the show needed. I think that adds stakes and like holy-ish moment to the show. Then I thought we were getting to the point where, oh no, because I thought this was a possibility that we're going to have a Henry redeem himself moment. And yes, we get the official reveal that Henry is being controlled by the dark. I'm about to say the dark presence because I've been playing Alan Wake 2. But Henry is being controlled, and Will gives him the speeches. It wasn't you, and we get the whole. If you watch Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney Plus with Darth Vader and Obi apologizes to him and tells him that something about not being able to save him or something, and leaving him to die, and that he killed his friend, and Vader says that he killed Anakin Skywalker. It wasn't Obi that killed him. Basically saying he made the choice to become Vader a long time ago. And that's the kind of moment we got there with Henry in this episode. Is like Will is saying that he can fight it and this, and Henry's basically saying he made the choice to become one with this thing. The military presence in this is just stupid in my opinion. I still say, why? If the world's going to end, what good does it do to have super soldiers? And it just feels like they're there just as a nuisance, more so than an actual thing in the show when there are bigger things going on, and possibly also to give other characters something to do. So I did not like the military during this whole season. It just felt dumb. But yeah, there were some cool moments in the fight. I will say the final boss being a giant spider. After you spend a whole time like Henry Vecna is the thing you have to defeat. Then you find out Henry's being controlled and there's someone above him, which is this giant spider. Henry's doing the bidding of this giant spider. We have this boss fight with our group and the giant spider. We get the fight between Henry and 11. And I thought, not gonna lie, especially the Henry 11 fight, it was pretty cool for what it was. The giant spider thing, I guess it gave the other characters, like I said, something to fight as well. But it just seems like if this is the entity that's controlling everything, it still seemed like it was secondary to Vecna. So yeah, they eventually get the better of the giant spider with the whole group coming together to do their thing. Vecna has his final battle with 11 with Will's help. Will's not afraid anymore, and he's using his power, and it's kind of a help assist 11, and it was a showdown that was needed between 11 and Vecna, and obviously eventually 11 gets the better of Vecna as he's impaled on a jagged rock or something. So I'm not gonna lie, like I said, 11, I felt like I was more emotionally involved in this episode with 11 than any other character. Like when 11 weep for her sister, felt that. When 11, any emotion that 11 was feeling at the time, I felt like I felt. But yeah, as the giant spider was weakened and hurt, Vecna was weakened and hurt, and 11 got the better of it, and our group wins. And eventually, everybody comes inside where 11 is, and there's a moment where Vecna is, I'm like, is he coming back? He's making noise and coughing again, and I was like, there's no way. Anyway, that was his final gasp, and they gave Joyce the opportunity to put this away, which is kind of fitting since this all started with Joyce and losing her kid, being missing, and the Christmas lights and all of those things. So I kind of like that. And they come out, we're having this happy ending, and it looks like 11 isn't going to do the thing about sacrificing herself, because her and her sister made the plan that this will never end as long as they're in the world, and the military is always going to go after them and try to make more of them. So this is where the military becomes a nuisance again, right? They come through the portal, and who's there? The military. They just saved the world, and the military is there grabbing them just so they can get 11 and try to make more 11s and Henrys and super soldiers. So 11, knowing this is going to happen, seemingly disappears, standing in the upside down, which is about to be destroyed, to sacrifice herself. And to make a long story short, she does it with the military sitting there holding everybody, which I didn't understand. If 11 is what you want, then why are you holding everybody else while she's in there sacrificing herself? Wouldn't they go in there and try to get her before it like explodes or implodes or whatever it's doing in there? But instead they just sit there and watch as 11 is sacrificed. 18 months later, after that moment, Hawkins is a new place. The dark presence is gone over the city, and we get our endings for each of our characters or each group. There's a graduation. I think there was a D&D game. There was a moment at the radio station roof with the older kids. Everybody has them. There's Hopper and Joyce like out on a date with a proposal, and each person has their little thing, right? And this is the moment, the graduation moment kind of remind me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I always refer back to Buffy. Here I go again. Graduation day. Their big battle was at graduation day. But I remember when Buffy was on, I was the age that those characters were supposed to be at that time, right? I was in high school. I was around that time. So I feel like I related to it more. And I was thinking while watching this show, I'm like, if I was around these kids' age, if I'm in my early 20s or a kid that has grown up with this show, this would possibly be an even bigger moment with me because I don't know, maybe it's I would relate to it a little bit more, being the fact that these are, there are probably people out there that were, I don't know, young teens that grew up with this show. And this was probably a huge moment for them. So I did stop and think about that for a moment. I was like, man, there are probably kids out there that have grown up with this thing. And this has probably made a profound impact on them. And this was probably very, very emotional for them. But I gave the finale a 7.3, which is good. They gave me enough action. The ending was actually satisfactory for me and actually made some sense. As I said, was it the greatest thing in the world? No. Was it the worst thing in the world? No. But to me, it was good enough. It wasn't one of those endings where I'm like, this is just horrible, horribly disappointing type things. And it wasn't one of those like, I'm on the edge of my seat buzzing like, oh my God, this was a hella great ending type thing either. I was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of nice. But also the ending, they kind of gave us an alternate ending there at the end, right? And the kids are around the, because for a second I was like, oh my God, they swerved us on the ending and 11 is still alive. And Mike has known it all along. But they phrased it in that Mike is telling the story that, I don't see how he phrased it. She was using her powers with those like sound things on that neutralizes her. So he forms a story where her sister's still alive and disguised her and made her invisible, where she was able to escape, and projected a version of 11 in the upside down as it was engulfed, basically faking her own death and getting out in some area that no one can find. They basically left that theory out there. They weren't saying that's what happened, but that's what Mike is saying he's choosing to believe. Maybe it's a coping mechanism. It also gives, I think, some people somewhat of a happy ending because they're kind of playing with the ending there a little bit. So yeah, that is the finale episode. Here's some closing thoughts. I saw something that said Holly Wheeler has gotten more screen time than any other character this season, which would be crazy, seeing that the characters that we loved didn't get that kind of screen time would be crazy. So here's my capper. Let's close this thing out. Although I found the story kind of convoluted this season, and I stated that I thought the story and the characters have gotten kind of too big. By that, I mean there's too many characters. And I feel like the story got really huge, and we went from this small town supernatural thing to now this inner, like, universe planetarium thing. I still find myself satisfied with the ending. I wasn't really happy how we got here, but the ending for characters that I have followed for, I guess, 10 years. We have 5 seasons over 10 years. So there's a lot of build up there, and I found their ending satisfactory. There were moments where I felt like I was holding back tears. I felt the emotion because I had been with these characters so long. Was it the greatest ending? No, but certainly wasn't the worst I've ever seen. It did hit just well enough for me as an ending. So I say to all people involved in this show over 10 years and 5 seasons, like, you made us wait years between seasons at times. And it, like I said, it was what it was, but you brought a special show to the world, and I think it was one hell of a ride. So yes, I thank you for the entertainment. So that is my final summary. Finally, I will give you my final score, because I didn't put it on my paper there, but it's in my database. Stranger Things episode average ended up ending with a 6.8, and I gave it a 0.3 bonus, which means Stranger Things overall season 5 ends with a 7.1 solid. So this is already, I'm looking at the clock here on my filming time here. It's already ran long than I would have hoped. However, There's a possibility, it's probably a long shot, that I do a second video on this with my character breakdowns on how I feel about the characters as this show moves on. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that video, but it's a possibility that I could do that. But until next time, thing right here is moving and it won't stay still, so I'm holding it here. So until next time, in the next review, I'm JohnHexx, and I am out.